Hello and welcome everybody to this very special episode of your average esports podcast. It's very special because we're actually back. We haven't done this in like a month, basically. I would apologize, but we didn't do it because I was on vacation. I was in Kiev, so I'm not really that sorry. But as you see, it's only the two of us this time around because everybody else is apparently busy. But I think Steven and I have a lot to talk about, so I'm not gonna miss them too much. What's up, Steven?
Yeah. What's up? This will be good.
Dota is everything is really like the schedule is packed. Everybody is preparing for like the TI season basically, and for CS it's very much the same as the major season that's coming up. So a lot of things happening, and I think it's best if we just jump right into action with Ace versus Wings, or Ace versus the world, Ace versus everybody really.
This one's pretty interesting, right? Like there's so many weird stories coming out of this one.
That's the funny part. I talked to a colleague earlier about it because we're shameless plug. I don't know if we're gonna do a write up about all of this, but I had to provide him with. There's like so many angles that you need to cover because suddenly everybody's coming up with their own story, with their own statement. There was this incident where Liquid posted something from LGD's manager supposedly, and then people came out and be like, no, this is actually not true, and like this is not that dude is not even a proper representative of LGD, so talking to him was a total waste of time. And you know, IG tweeted out that there was no ban in the first place for Wings, so then they deleted that tweet because then screenshots came out where supposedly everybody from Ace was like, hey, let's just not make this ban official, we'll just all agree to not pick him up anymore and not to have him play. That's very sketchy.
Yeah, man, it's like a very large game of. You ever see that movie Rashomon?
I have not.
Okay, so basically the premise of the movie is a crime happens between like a samurai, a bandit, and a girl.
Right.
And then what happens is Kurosawa basically does a bunch of different people telling their version of the story of what's happening between these three people, and apparently none of the versions are true, and the whole point of the story is basically fucking everybody like rewrites their memory to make themselves look better.
That's actually pretty hilarious.
So that's basically what I think is happening, because fucking like apparently like all the wings when they first started like, okay, we'll band together, fuck those wings guys, they're not paying us, we're in this ride or die, and then they're like yeah totally, we're in this ride or die, and then apparently, like, the rumors of the band come out, or an actual band comes out. We don't actually know if the rumors are the real, because at this point, like, Ace is, like, pretending that they're fake, and then EHOME's saying they're real, and then Ace is saying, no, EHOME is lying. Whatever the case, Y and Faith Beyond lose their fucking, like, nerve, right? And then lose their fucking nerve, and then that's the death of that team. Because there's no way that's reconciling now.
Which is a huge shame because, you know, there was like a beautiful story of this whole, like, this band of brothers almost, you know, making it to TI and against all odds. And if you look at all the statements that, like, the old Chinese veterans have made, like, these are the RTK said something along the lines of they brought glory back to China. Like, they made us proud again, right? They saved our face because of, you know, the previous
domination,
year. Right.
And then it's like RTK, this is like, he's played Dota for how many years? Like 10 plus?
Yeah, exactly.
The only team he's ever been a fan of, right?
Exactly. So,
and
yeah,
like,
sure, good.
The fucking Wings story is fucking crazy. Like, if I was going to do a documentary for Valve, I'd probably do one of Wings, because they're fucking, like, they spent, like, years getting trashed by everybody, but they stuck together. Like, they legitimately, like, did the VP thing, but they accepted the fact that they were going to lose, like, for fucking years.
And I'm pretty sure if the whole Ace situation, or well, like, I'm sure as in, I think there was a fair chance that if the whole Ace situation hadn't occurred, and you know, if they hadn't had a lot of issues, they probably would have found a way to maybe, you know, stick it out. Who knows? Yeah. But like I said, two of them are, or fraction of them are still playing together. Y and what was it, Blink? No, Shadow. No, wait, no, Faith Beyond.
Y and Faith Beyond.
Y and Faith Beyond.
He's like, I'll take the best player with me.
They are playing with EHOME now, and we'll probably get to the roster shuffle later, but yeah, I mean, EHOME not being part of Ace anymore, while even though they supposedly left at their, you know, they chose to leave Ace, it still pains a pretty damning picture for Ace in terms of, you know, ban or no ban.
Yeah.
I think at this point we can conclusively say that they have been banned, the Wings players, that is. That is why I believe also Ice and who else is left? Blink, right? That they are still struggling to find a team, which coincidentally also Valve pushed the deadline for the roster, the roster shuffle basically, and I am pretty sure that it's because of them and Thunderbirds. Thunderbirds also haven't, but again, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, basically, this is the Dota 2 version of Tank Man. For those who get that reference, it's a good one.
Anyway, yeah, Ace, this is not the first time there's been a lot of, you know, shade thrown at them. There's been a lot of talk about revolts or, you know, Team DK, for example, when they got this is not necessarily Ace related in the sense, but the whole teams banding together against Team DK and deciding not to scrim against Team DK. Like, these kind of things, apparently they happen in Chinese Dota, like, very easily. Like, you don't need to do a lot to actually get exiled, basically.
It's a very Chinese mentality.
Yeah.
Beat the hammer that sticks out, or beat the nail that sticks out.
EHOME also 2011 and 2012, when they got player, I don't know who they got. They acquired some players, and then they also got basically banned from Ace. Also, teams weren't able to scrim against them. Ace also very shady, you know, the whole not paying out the prize money towards Ice. I'm not even sure if he actually got his money at this point. So
no one knows.
A lot of shitty stuff.
A lot of shady shit back there. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next.
Yeah, let's just go to the next one. We don't really know how this is going to play out. For all we know, the bans are going to disappear after TI. Everybody's like, oh yeah, happy family again. All right.
Till the next.
Exactly, till the next incident. Let's head into the Manila Masters then. The big tournament coming up this weekend. A lot of good teams at the event. It's like the first of probably like an entire series. It looks like they want to create like these master series, like ESL and Mineski together. Yeah. And this is only the second event in 7.06, which was a huge patch for Dota. Which team are you looking forward to the most?
All right, so I'd have to actually say it's Clutch Gamers all right, so after the major, I thought to myself, okay, here's what's gonna happen. I think TNC or Faceless will shuffle, and then they'll get a little bit better. At least TNC will shuffle, and they'll get a little bit better, and then they'll become the best C team.
Right.
But then this team that came out of nowhere literally beat the shit out of every C team in every qualifier, Clutch Gamers. And since I don't watch online tournaments, I have to ask you, how good is this team? Is this like legit?
It's very legit. Very legit. You know, at first when I saw them, like that was I think Kiev major pre-Kiev major qualifiers actually. I looked at them and I thought to myself, you know, this is like a really cool team, but at the same time, you know what, it could be like a fluke. But then they just mow down every team in these qualifiers, and I think to myself, wow, this is a legit team. They play a very unique style in the sense that it never feels like they get out drafted, or it never really feels like they're uncomfortable at all. It almost feels like, you know, this, and this is one of these things that you can always say, but it looks like this is a team that fits to the patch right now as well. Like, they really like the patch right now. They just like they just feel comfortable on all the heroes that they play. And it is actually funny that this team is succeeding, because when I first saw them play, I thought to myself, hey, SEA rejects. Gabby and Rapi both got rejected from Execration, actually. They played with Execration, and then they got edged out. Rapi, especially, cool story, he won the LAN event that got them the invite for Boston Major, and then he got kicked out, basically.
So he's the misery of C.
Basically.
Except we don't have reports of whether he really is truly like revenge field.
No, wait, or was it him or was it Gabby? I don't know. One of these guys.
Okay.
Anyway, either way, it was. Yeah, it wasn't. It's both of them basically. The whole like, oh yeah, we're just rejects.
We are the new DC. We are like vengeance incarnate.
Basically, and the same also sort of for the others. They played what was a team called? Something Arena or something. Let me just check it up. I can't pronounce it, but they Action Arena or something. Action without the T though. I don't know, but so they've been around. They're not by any means new in the sense that they're newcomers, but they've been around. And Action Arena wasn't necessarily a good team ever. They were sort of like the team that you think could be a dark horse, but you're sure they are not gonna be at an event. So seeing them succeed is kind of interesting, and it's a cool storyline for SEA because, and again we'll probably talk about this later in the shuffle talk, but if you look at SEA right now, you definitely look towards Fnatic and Mineski, even what's it called? TNC.
There's a bunch of
obviously.
Yeah, TNC. There's a bunch of rising teams in SEA, even though I don't think any of them are necessarily like certain locks to win yet.
Right, but because of the shuffle, you thought immediately of these like super teams that form, right? Fnatic with all these names, Ohio, DJ. What they're called, and Mineski were forming around Mushi, and then even Bimbo, even though they kicked Bimbo now. But yeah, you looked at these teams and thought to yourself, damn, like these teams are going to be like super teams again. And then versus Faceless, you have these rivalries, and then Clutch Gaming is like, hey guys, we're still here, we're still here.
And then they beat the shit out of everybody, which is why I was like surprised, like what is this team?
Right. I will say though that, and I mean we talked about this earlier. They won 4 qualifiers now, but if they bomb out on LAN, and again, this is a brand new team, right? For all we know, this could be the honeymoon phase that they're riding. They could bomb out at every LAN event, and then if they do that, they make sure that SCA does not get a single invite for any, or like for TI at least.
Yep, that's a very real possibility.
But again, we obviously hope for the best. We obviously hope for the best.
Mm-hmm. Who are you looking forward to in this event then?
Probably Team Secret. I think the other teams we've seen a lot from due to the major DAC, but Team Secret I think proved even at the major, even though obviously they lost in the playoffs, I think they proved to Brazil, to Brazil, that they're a strong team, and ever since they've still been playing very very impressively. Obviously they only played against like sort of tier 2 European teams. But still, strong team, and with the format, which is double elim, they have very good chances of advancing. I think Puppy is a good captain, obviously. So, and that first matchup is against Newbee, who Newbee is struggling a lot at the moment. I'm actually surprised that they didn't make a roster change.
I was like very adamant they had to make a roster change, because like this team keeps losing in the exact same way.
Yeah.
Get close to like the top 4, then fall under pressure and then die. Go to a major and die instantly, like
it is, and yeah, this is pretty much the pattern that has plagued them for like over a year at this point.
Yeah,
I remember last year, basically around this time, they were pegged as like the top 3 team alongside EG and Liquid, and even going into the major, we again thought that they're like a top 4 team, but they just crumble in these big events, and even now outside of these big events, they're struggling a lot. I actually need to pull up their results just quickly, but as far as if I remember correcely, they
lost
been
to
getting
TNC
the
at Starladder recently.
Right.
Playoffs.
Right. And even in the group stage, I didn't think they'd look that great. They lost against Vega Squadron in the first match. It's a bit different because CIS teams, in my opinion, or I think in history, have done pretty well against Chinese teams.
Yeah.
It was the first match of the tournament, but still, there's a lot of inconsistency in Newbee right now. In China, they also lost against CDC. Though again, CDC is also a strong team. But yeah, Newbee is struggling a lot. So I think Team Secret has a really good route to potentially the winners finals. They would meet OG in the semifinals, but OG is attending without fucking Mad, so no coach for them.
I'm not actually sure how important that might be, because we saw the documentary where he's like all coachy and stuff, but like I'm not sure how they are as a team without him, I guess, so you can't really measure how much of an impact he will have for their performance, especially because OG is actually a very interesting case here, because remember we talked about this. Ana is basically good at the entire game of Dota except the laning phase. And right now the laning phase is pretty critical. So this will finally be a test to see if what they can do if not, yeah, if Anna runs into a guy who can beat him in like the laning phase. Because I'm not sure Fada is the one to do it, but maybe somebody else will.
It's actually hilarious because I think if it had been like maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago, I would have said Fada would definitely bully him out of the lane. But it's difficult because he has obviously had a break, and then even with Bears, he looked good at first and then looked sort of But I definitely agree with you. The laning stage is very important right now, and it is something that could potentially hurt OG. And I mean, it is. We saw it in the documentary that you mentioned. That a lot of honest play is also very reliant on his mentality, going into the game and during the game. I'm not saying that he can tilt easily, but I think he needs confidence to really shine. So in that sense, I definitely think this is something that we need to look out, or he needs to look out for. And if he plays against mid one, like if OG and Secret meet in the semifinals, if he plays against mid one, I'm pretty sure OG has to put like all their eggs into the whole Jarek's basket and be like, "Yo, let's mess up mid one," because otherwise, I think that is a very rough battle.
Or like if he runs into Smail, he's super fucking dead. Like runs into OP, it's pretty bad. SCC is a bit more manageable, but SCC won't choke until like they get in the top 4. So maybe they meet later. Like there are some bad matches for Anna in the laning phase, even though Anna's a good player later on. And all right, so I haven't watched online games, but I have been anticipating the return of Art, known as the artist, I guess, Team NP. Have you seen any of the games? What do you think?
I have seen some of the games, and I think they look promising. At first, it was a bit rocky, but that is to be expected with a new team, right? But I don't know. I see a lot of the good things from Team NP that we should have come to you, like we know from the old Cloud9, but also just from the players individually. I still am not too sure if the whole AY 4 position is going to work out full time. I do think that so far it has worked out much better than I anticipated, but I still think it is a critical point that his foreplay. When he played position 4 for Kaipi or Cloud9 at the time, he basically invented the new, or he
invented a new style.
Like he set a new standard for how to play position 4. The way he greedily played around the map, he split pushed as a 4. He got a lot of farm in 4, but that has changed a lot since. And I mean, in Digital Chaos, he showed that he struggled with the team playing on that as that 4 position. But I think now it actually almost suits him again in a sense, because I think he can get away with a greedy play like this. I mean, we saw it in Kiev Major. There's always going to be one support that can play some sort of greedy style. We had a lot of Crystal Maidens where people could just AFK from jungle, basically. And, I mean, again, it has worked out so far, but I do think that this would be something that we'll look out for in terms of, like, weaknesses. But, I don't know, overall, Fada, Envy are, like, really good cores, and Parada is just the boss on support, so...
Yeah, I was about to say, I think the reason AUI can... I didn't watch the games, but theoretically, I think AUI could get away with this greedy support style because it's Pylai Die.
Yeah.
Like, Pylai Die is like sacrificial, like make space style. That's kind of perfect for that kind of thing. So now I was just curious because I feel like, this team is very like arty, like. So I'm expecting some wild throws and some wild comebacks from this team. So we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. All
right. One more team that I do want to mention here is EG. I feel like, and also IG a little bit, but for EG, to me, this is one of these events that they kind of have to win. Not necessarily in the sense of we need to win this in order to get invited, but we need to win this in order to, because we have the ambition to win. I think EG as a team has the ambition to win like a title every few months or so, just because this is like, I mean, Sumail, Arteezy, and Universe, like these players are bound to get titles, right? They're like that is the team that gets titles, and so far they've only won Dota Pit.
Yeah. All right. First off, though, that was under the leadership of my favorite God Emperor in Dota 2, PPD.
No, Dota Pit was still with Crit though. Like that was, I mean, I'm talking.
Yeah,
about, like,
no, I'm just saying, like, we talk about this team as like
Oh,
a
right,
multi-championship team,
right.
like a team that wants to win every fucking event. That was
Right.
under PPD.
Right.
I don't know if Crit is that kind of guy, right? And this team specifically is not that same team,
True.
even though only one person has changed. And critically, like the whole problem, like the whole like reason like EG kept splitting up previously was because they were getting really good results, they were winning under PPD, but they couldn't handle like the internal conflicts. With Crit, apparently all the internal conflicts are gone, but they're not as good.
Yeah. Which is, again, I do think that I definitely agree with you. The whole like title winning team was definitely with PPD. But again, I do think that these players sort of need a title to be satisfied. I do think that a lot of friction has gone in terms of, personality wise, but I do think that the friction will eventually build up the longer they go without a title.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, like the threshold is much larger than before, but you thinking is getting closer to that threshold.
Yeah, probably. Like, if they don't place top 3 TI, don't think this team is going to stay together.
Yeah, like I felt like the threshold was supposed to happen at the major, but then Secret got beat by Brazil, so that story ended.
I definitely think that helped.
Yeah. Thank you, Brazil. You saved EG.
Yeah, and the reason I single out IG is because this is something that I'm not sure if I mentioned it after DAC, but I think it is definitely something that started with DAC. It's the whole winning a big tournament going into TI and like being like the number one team going into TI, or not necessarily going to TI but into major. IG was definitely the team to beat, and I think it showed at the major that they can't really deal with it too much. Because to me, IG they look like the same team, which is nice, but it's not enough to stay consistently at the top. And I think staying at the top is always going to be the hardest thing to ever accomplish, right? For any team, really. So for me, the question is, and this is something that happened last year as well with, Liquid OG, who were at the very top at the beginning of the year, but then going into TI, they started, dropping off.
They fumbled.
Exactly.
Lost up noise, lost a demon.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm wondering, is what IG are we going to see here? Is it going to be an IG that, can prove us they're still a top team, or is it just going to be like average, like fourth to sixth place?
So I've compared IG before to the previous version of EG under PPD. Right. So this is where Q needs to prove to me he is like actually PPD-esque, because PPD, the old guy, he certainly had a specific style, but he was always very adaptable to the patches and to the team, and he could figure out when things were working or not. So this time it'll be up to Q, because I think Q is. Yeah, I think like Burning might be like the captain of the team in terms of like spiritual leader, but I think Q is like the strategic, tactical mind behind this team. So it'll be up to him to like create or forge a new play style, or maybe even just alter their old play style to make it work during this new era. So I think it'll be up to him. And yeah, I think they lost at Star Ladder, right? But I'm not taking that too seriously, because it was just like a few days of practice. So, and we're running into a shitload of tournaments. So there's gonna be a lot of like live testing for this team, where they're trying to figure things out on the road. So I think individually they're fine as a team. I don't think they should trade people like I thought Newbee should, but Newbee isn't. But this particular team. All right, so here's a theory I've always had about predicting who was going to like create an era. So if we look back at Alliance, I think the reason they were so fucking dominant wasn't just because they had the style and they were the best at the style. It was also because like the style was like a strategic paradigm shift of like the entire way you thought about Dota 2. This current IG team, they have a style, they're very good at it, arguably the best at it, but their style isn't necessarily changing like the entire strategic landscape of the game.
Right.
So for them, they're not going to have an era unless they themselves can adapt and like change from like tournament to tournament, like the old EG kind of did in a sense. So it's a very interesting time for IG.
I will say I really like that theory, and I actually really agree with it. But at the same time, I will say that these days I think it's getting much more difficult to have that
Do
kind of
that.
to do that. Mostly because obviously the competition is getting much fiercer, but at the same time also because the game and the way that develop or the way that IceRock or Dota 2 or Valve approaches the game and
Yeah,
balancing is very different than it was back then.
yeah,
You can
and
you
they
yeah, you can just see it
okay.
the amount of patches that we've had since 7, right? Like the
Hmm.
amount of mini patches basically. So
Yeah,
I think it's very difficult to forge a style and like you said then, alter it slightly or just, change the landscape.
yeah, and then especially. All right, so this is actually like a very, very like very broad concept, but basically, if you've ever watched never watched, but if you do you know who Justin Wong is from Street Fighter or Marvel?
Yeah, I mean, I know who he is,
Okay.
but I.
Okay, so I'll give you a little history lesson about him. Basically, before the internet age truly came into form, his game was originally Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And then this is real. This is a true story. For 3 years, he went undefeated in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. He never dropped a single game.
Oh damn.
So, and the reason that's impossible now is because of the dissemination of the amount of information about a player. So that's like something that even from even during the Alliance era, yeah, the internet was there. There were actually way more games, but the dissemination and the analysis that
Right.
went into like breaking down these people wasn't nearly as good as it is now. So that's why it's like that's another reason besides like the constant patching why it's probably harder to create like an entire paradigm shift. It's also why I think winning TI isn't just about how good you are. You also have to be lucky.
No, definitely, I agree with you. And there are a lot of resources that weren't available then that are available now. Obviously, you have Dead Dota and Dota Buff right now, which provide a lot of
Hmm.
information. And I actually know that a lot of teams flat out print pages from these websites and have them as notes. But there are also even I know,
They're
for
also
example,
like useless against wings.
yeah, they're very useless against wings. No, but there was actually a group of or one developer that had like a really cool program that parsed games directly, and he got like really cool information and was able to like create heat maps and that kind of shit. And
Hmm.
I remember specifically, I met him at TI4. He specifically gave that information to Cloud9. He's like, he liked the team, so he approached them and be like, "Yo, you want to use my tool?" And he gave it to them. And
All
these are
right.
the kind of things that teams have no access to, right? The whole kind of obviously this is a very specific example, but
Hmm.
there's actually I think 2 or 3 services right now that offer these kind of like hey pro teams
Yeah,
we're good,
analytics.
yeah, exactly. So I definitely agree with you there. That like changes the game completely.
I should also point out it's kind of funny because I think that's actually the wrong team to give it to.
I agree.
Not because I don't like the team, but because
I
they're
don't
so
think they use
theory
it
crafty.
properly.
They're so like art like that giving them science data is not going to help them.
I 100% agree, and I'm not even sure if back then they had a proper coach to digest the information properly.
Hmm.
If you gave it to them now, I think maybe things would be
Maybe they could
different.
do it,
But
but
yeah,
yeah, like I said, it's very different. Like that specific team, wasn't all that helped that much. Even though another team probably could have used that information and taken it pretty far.
yes. Just to quickly wrap up the Manila Masters, any favorites for the title? Do you want to go with a boring OG one, or do you think that there's like a not that OG winning the title would be boring, but it's like the
I think that's
most.
I think it's the obvious choice. Um, yeah. All right. So I can't pick Clutch Gamers because this is their first land. Faceless isn't good enough. Newbie will choke.
Faceless. Good jokes.
EG, I still don't think is that as like they have good talent, but I don't think as a team they necessarily stack up
Right.
against the best in the world. Um, if VP was here, probably pick VP, but they're not here. I th- NP, they're full of artists. That's like I don't have a gambling addiction, so I'm not picking them, right? So now we come down to Secret, OG, or IG. IG wasn't particularly convincing, and between OG and Secret, I think OG is just better against the entire field. So yeah, it has to be OG, I think.
I'm just gonna go with Secret, just because I mean all the other teams pretty much basically for the reasons that you picked.
Yeah.
But picking Secret because I don't know, I just like Yapster a lot, and they've been unlike any of the other teams here, they've had a very Cloud Gamers also had a very good run into this tournament, but Team Secret also had like a smooth online performance with the new team now, so I think they have like good preparation, a lot of confidence. I picked them. OG, I don't think I'm not gonna say that they're gonna feel like comfortable. Oh, we just won the major. We don't need to win anything. But I definitely think that they might not be on as high alert as other teams right now.
Okay.
So I think that's on picking Secret.
Right. So I understand the point, but OG didn't seem all that on high alert at the major either. Like,
That's
if you get what I mean.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
Basically, you ever watch Smash? Among the six gods, there's this guy named Armada, and then so basically, six gods are basically the untouchable, like elite tier of players who win every single tournament.
All right.
But famously, like the other five guys, or actually it's five gods, I think. But the other guys, they all basically said the same thing. Armada on his worst day is better than our average day,
Damn.
or as good as our average day.
Right.
So even though our best day can beat him, his worst day is still better than our better or equal to our average day, and this is basically what I think OG is. On their worst day, I think they're still good enough to beat most of these teams.
I mean, that's sort of what they showed during the group stage, right? When they kept picking Arc Ward, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll make it work."
Yeah, so that's why it's like very hard to choose against them. But then, well, we'll see. I think their weaknesses will be at TI. We'll see at TI.
Yeah,
I think that's when they'll fall apart.
That's a good point.
If they fall apart.
And that's a good wrap up for this topic, and we can move towards roster changes. I didn't write down any of the roster changes, so we're just going to go across the board, basically. Since we talked about SCA a lot already, let's just start there.
Okay.
So there's obviously the new Fnatic, which sort of formed during the major already, or before, I think.
Yeah, before the major.
No, wait. They did it during the major, and then they changed it after the major, I think.
Oh, okay, they changed it? All right.
So the funny thing is actually their manager, Eric, he tweeted out, "Yeah, this is our roster." Oh, I actually have to look it up right now. This is our roster: Ohio, DJ, Febby, Miracle, and Kyo. No changes. And then 2 days after, or 3 days after, they announced that they would replace Miracle with Ajit. And the funny thing is, they're like, "Oh yeah, Miracle, he's still gonna stay on the team." No, fuck that. Like, he already has a new team that registered on the major registration page. I will say that Ajit is like a really good replacement for him, and I honestly think it's gonna make them stronger, because I think in the games that they did play, Miracle to me looked definitely like the weak link. But it is still very funny that he tweets out, "Yeah, no changes." But yeah, again, on paper, this was even now that they changed out Miracle, I still think on paper, if you look at this lineup, if you print out this lineup and send it to us two in the past, like a year ago, or even like 1.5 years ago, you go like, "Yeah, damn, this is the SCA super
2 months
team."
ago.
Yeah, this is the SCA super team. But
Is this the SDH super team?
it's
Like,
it's not right now. That's for
it's
sure.
not right now, but I mean, like on paper, DJ. All right, I don't know how good Ajit is. I'll tell you straight up. I think Kyo was the best Korean player, for sure. I think Ohio was.
No, I probably actually would go with 4F, honestly. But yeah, go ahead.
All right, this was before. All right, actually, 4F is actually a good call out.
Yeah.
But I think Ohio was like a top 3, like offlaner in the SEA region, and I think he was the best until 4F like overtook him. Right.
Fair.
I think DJ was the best player for the Fnatic squad last year at TI.
100%.
And I think Febby is actually was a pretty good like support player, and he basically built like the team around QO. And since you already have QO here, it's perfect synergy, I guess, right?
Exactly, and that's why I think this. Obviously, if I had to pick like the best players of that region for every single position, it would still look a bit different. But just because it doesn't really get that much better than this, honestly, on paper. Yeah. But again, this is just a theory. They definitely did not perform so far. I think their track record is actually a bit bad. It might have looked better now. Let me actually just quickly pull it up. But yeah, this team so far has not really impressed me at all. I do think that obviously it's a bit early, and again, because the other teams do have Actually, no, they pulled it. Yeah, they pulled it together for Zotac. But other than that, it's like, they did beat Clutch Gamers 2-0.
Yeah. All right. So if you think about it like holistically, this is very. This if you want to call us an all-star team, you have to remember the fact that most all-star teams don't work.
Yeah, that's true.
Like like EG is an all-star team, but they're not nearly as good as OG. IG technically isn't an all-star team until like they proved it, I guess. I actually don't even think they're an all-star team. Really.
Nah, they're not. They're not.
Team DK was a true all-star team, but that was like years ago. Like there aren't that many cases where the all-star team necessarily works, but this is like a very Karn-esque like lineup if you think about it. Like basically get all the best players and then run it.
Right. We'll see, I suppose, but the competition in SEA is really fierce. If you just look at, I mean, and this is actually pretty hilarious to me, but if you look at the last two games that they played was versus Mineski and Faceless, and they lost like straight up 2-0 against both of them. And it just goes to show that these teams are going to trade blows against one another probably. Mineski, also this other team that formed a entirely new roster around Mushi.
Yeah, I am surprised.
It is.
Are you surprised? I'm surprised.
I was surprised actually when they did announce that. I honestly thought that Mushi and Ohio were just gonna stick it out, just ride that wave and be like, "Yo, I'm here for a TI slot." I was very surprised, and I'm even more surprised that they got rid of Raging Potato. They kicked him just 2 days ago or something, which is to me very surprising because this is like I'm trying to find a proper analogy. I wouldn't quite say Dendy Navi because Dendy Navi is like a completely different level. But if you level it down like 2 steps, basically, that'd be it. Like Raging Potato Mineski, like he made Mineski into the team that it is now, basically. He was there in the very early days when SEA Dota 2 especially wasn't good at all, and now they just kicked him. And the announcement was like, "Oh, we have a new roster." Like it wasn't even a proper announcement; it was just a screenshot of the roster at the registration page. And be like, "Yeah, this is our new roster, by the way."
Yeah, it's like the PPD way of kicking out SC2 people, except
basically
a bit lower. But.
Basically, they did pick up Mag, which I think is one of the biggest surprises. Mag, CIS player going to SCA, and I hope this is going to become a trend where teams from regions where they have had no luck just go into another region, because I think this is what's holding Dota back a lot, the fact that people tend to stick to their own region. I mean, I think we've seen from DC, for example, that this is a very successful model, right?
Yeah, freedom for resolution.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And I think Mag is sort of in the same vein. I think Mag is also definitely one of the better players from CIS, and he's also been freed from the CIS shackles now. And I don't know, this team looks promising. I think it definitely helps that it doesn't look like an all-star team anymore. Like it just looks very solid.
I don't really see a superstar player, but I don't really know who Arc is, so
I'm not entirely sure who Arc is either. But Ninja Boogie, Rio are just very, very safe support players. I think if you wanted to go with like, if, for example, if you were playing fantasy cards in the compendium, right, and you want to pick 2 support players that you are sure are not gonna bomb out, but have the chance to impress, you might just pick these 2. You might just pick these 2. So that's Mineski. Another player that went to SEA, by the way, Sexy Bambo.
Sexy Bambo.
He's playing with Geek Fam now.
Okay.
Also no official announcement yet, but Geek Fam also another one of these teams that is sort of on the rise. They've been very impressive in the past few months now. They've sort of died down a little bit. They were sort of rising at the same time as Clutch Gamers, and I honestly thought that Geek Fam had better potential than Clutch Gamers at the time, but they didn't pull through. And last, but I'm trying to think if there's another SA team that's worth considering right now. Happy Feet is like, eh.
I guess Theban went to TNC.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. Theban went to TNC. They removed Rior, who's now with Mineski, and that is one other, player that has been freed from his shackles of his own region.
Technically freed from NP squad, but
technically he was kicked. But yeah.
Yeah.
But it is one of these other things, that I definitely think it helps that he doesn't, like, he could have technically stuck around and formed none of these if NA stacks, band together with IX Mike or whatever, or Stan
Oh
King
God,
or
don't
whatever.
do that.
No, yeah.
Don't do that.
So that was pretty good. And so far they've been pretty impressive. I mean, they already played a LAN event, Starladder. They made second place actually, second place.
Second, yeah, they almost won they almost won it.
Yeah, exactly. They pushed it to 5 games against Liquid.
Yeah, and like I said, I always thought this TNC squad was actually really good internationally. They always had the skill. They just lacked the experience, and I guess Theben is that guy who will bring it to them.
And I mean, the fact that they keep adding a new leader, I mean, Demon last year, right? And now Theben now, goes to show that they just think that they lack a leader who can give them direction in the game. And honestly...
Did he get kicked, or did he leave?
No, he left. He left, sorry.
Okay,
he left. He left for Fnatic.
Okay, yeah. Because I thought Demon was a pretty good leader for them, but like I thought he left her better for money or something.
No, I mean...
Or like a better opportunity.
Odds are Fnatic did pay him a lot more money than TNC did.
Okay.
But yeah, this is pretty cool. I hope that more teams are going to do this, and it's very unfortunate that there's like this huge language barrier and culture barrier for Chinese players, and but otherwise, if that wasn't the case, I definitely think,
the team would have bought out Shadow or Blink or
exactly.
Ice Ice.
They could easily, or yeah, if all the problems weren't there, they could basically go to Europe and be like, yo, or like NA, or SA,
or SEA, yeah, because
or SEA, yeah.
All right, so basically we've had a bunch of SEA rosters, right? And we are, even though they're not like close to like, none of them are truly championship like caliber, I guess. Like even though TNC got second, it's not like the field was stacked with everybody there. Do you think it's time for like SEA to get more slots into like TI or something?
It's difficult because the thing is, I think it is difficult for Valve to just straight up say, yo, we're going to give you more spots than we have so far if they haven't proven themselves internationally, right? And the thing is that most events outside of TI or outside of majors almost only invite one SEA team, not even invite them. Oftentimes it's just a qualifier. If you look at the invites, most of them are going to directed towards European and Chinese teams. You'll have like, or EG then. So it is really difficult, I think, for Valve to just say, yo, we recognize that this region is rising and we'll give them 3 slots instead of 2. So that's why I think if Clutch Gamers don't succeed on LAN, I think that could be another...
They could accidentally ruin SEA's chances.
Yeah, basically it would just be reduced to 2 slots again instead of 3. So that's why... I don't know. It's difficult. That's why I hope that one SEA team will succeed at some event. Be it these events, these upcoming lands, or at least TI. If they make like top 4 or something, they are likely going to be invited to the next major, and then we'll have 3 SEA teams. That'd be great. But yeah, I agree with you though that the scene is rising, and at this point, I think it's much more competitive than. I mean, even not just at this point. Actually, it has been more competitive for a while now than NA, for example. NA has like 3 teams maybe at this point. We're still not sure if Thunderbird is like really gonna stay NA. So yeah, hopefully they will edge out NA at some point, or at least get the amount of slots that they deserve.
Yeah, because it feels like Dota 2 is slowly like shifting towards CE as like one of its major regions.
I agree, and I think the players have realized that as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if more players even move there. Which actually, I think it's almost too late to go to SEA. I almost think that maybe you should try your luck at SA. Maybe it's too early for SA, but
no, I think it's a bit early for SA.
Yeah,
a bit early.
No, but we'll see. Probably if like these teams with Mag and Theben are successful at TI, maybe more players will consider going to SEA.
All right. Yeah, I think So basically, I think SEA is getting to the point where like they need, or like I'm not actually sure about the financial situation, but it feels like they're pumping in a lot more money into that specific game right now. You're definitely right. The first 3 years for SEA were really rough because no sponsors were really interested in the region, and it is still very difficult to get a lot of like good sponsors in that region because, for example, I mean the easiest example that I can give you is that an ad click from a person from the SEA region gives so much less money than
if I clicked on a video once. Like, if I clicked on the video once, basically, and watched an ad, it would basically be as valuable as if, like, 5 people in Philippines clicked on the same ad.
Right.
It's difficult, but it's definitely getting better, and it helps that a lot of the traditional esports organizations are investing into the scene. I think Fnatic being in the SEA helped the scene a lot, because it draws a lot of attention and it helps other sponsors recognize the potential in the scene. And then ESL investments as well. Like ESL won Manila last year was huge, because it not only caused the Manila major, or likely caused the Manila major, but also it drove a lot of prospective investors into the scene.
Interesting. Okay. Because I was thinking like that's kind of like the difference between SEA and SA right now.
Yeah,
Because
for
there's
sure.
like a lot of money. There's a lot of money and a bigger player pool in SEA than there's in SA. And while I do think SA do have some good players, like I don't think they have whatever it is to attract like international talent right now.
SA right now is basically worse than SEA was 3 years ago, because
Yeah.
SA lacks a deep player pool, and that creates the lack of tournaments for SA. SEA 3 years ago was still like very poor, in the sense that their top event had like a prize pool of like 5K at most, but at least they had regular tournaments within their own region where top teams could play against one another consistently. But SA doesn't have a lot of top tier events that they can participate in.
Yeah, so it's very similar to like the CS:GO of Brazil.
Which
Even
is
though like Brazil has like a fucking 2 amazing teams, but that's just because like they forced it to happen. So
right. So yeah, hopefully we'll see SA esports rise at some point. It definitely helps that there's a lot of I mean, in CS at least, IEM San Jose. I think that's huge for the scene. It helps a lot and helps attract sponsors. But for Dota, I don't know. I think if anything, we need a major down there and a guaranteed SA spot to drive interest in the game.
I think you're more likely to get the ESL one before you get a major there.
I agree because it often feels like ESL is more adventurous.
They're more willing to go into like areas people haven't been to before.
I agree. Yeah. We'll see. So I think that is it for SEA. Let's talk a bit China. I mean, we talked a little bit already with EHOME. They have CTY, Old Chicken, Faith Beyond, Y, and Garter, and I think that is one hell of a team. If you just looked at, again, this is just if you looked at it on paper, CTY is one of the best cores, the 6-minute god. You have Old Chicken, who's like a strong player. You have Faith Beyond, who in my opinion was the strongest individually skilled player on Wings. In terms of
arguably the best offlaner that's ever lived. He's like we're getting to ridiculous levels, but it sometimes feels like that.
It definitely sometimes felt like that, and hopefully it will feel like that again. And then Garter and Y. Garter, I actually. Do you know Scanzor? He's like the analyst for Happy Feet now. He tweeted out that he believes that both of them were huge factors in their team's success going at TI5 and TI6 respectively. And I gotta agree with him. I mean, it's difficult to really argue how much impact a certain player had by himself in a team's success, because we can't obviously look at the communication between them. But Garter and Garter at least made a lot of like individual plays, right, for CDC.
Yeah, I mean you can, but it's like very specific cases. Like I think S4 was the key to staying alive. Right. But yeah, I actually think it's kind of funny because if you read either the real or fake, we don't even know if it's real or fake, that whoever the fuck talked to the Liquid Dota guys, that guy's like he tried to play off like EHOME, they're just trash. Don't worry about them. And I was like, are they trash? Because even like Y and Faith Beyond and like 3 no names is pretty good. And I look at the teams like Old Chicken, CTY. This is a good team.
That's a pretty legit team.
Yeah, but like the problem with them is banned by Ace. It's gonna like Y is gonna have to like go into the fucking go into like fucking meditation and like create all those like wacky drafts and make it work for this team or something. Like they're gonna need something exceptional to pull it out, because I feel like they don't have the practice structure. Like maybe I'm not sure how rich EHOME is, but this might be a team where maybe they should just Like they could be paid by like EHOME, but they should move to a different region and play there.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. The whole not being able to scrim or play in these tournaments is actually a pretty huge deal. But at the same time, I guess this is where we enter like conspiracy theory, but and territory. But a lot of people are questioning, how far is Ace willing to go to make sure they exude their authority? Are they gonna say, hey, if you allow EHOME in your tournament, we're gonna make sure that you never get any of our teams again in your tournament? These things. But
I feel
don't
like they
think it's
only
gonna
care about China.
happen. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. I'm just
Like,
saying, in theory.
like, yeah, like Ace is crazy, but they're only crazy in their own national context. Like, I've never really seen them push around outside, but that's also because I've never seen like Valve push back.
But yeah, I definitely do think that they should go to a different region, play in SEA hopefully, and try their luck there
Yeah,
because
I think SEA is a good place to go.
you know.
It's cheaper. There's actually a lot of good teams right now. It's not a bad choice.
At the same time, though, you would obviously risk or you would obviously try to qualify in a very competitive region. I would honestly argue that it might be China's also very difficult, actually.
I mean, they're like if they really just wanted to get the easy win, they should go to NA. Like
that's actually true.
that's or I guess SA, but that's kind of like weird.
It reminds me of the Reddit post that somebody posted like 2 days ago or something. Like NA leaderboards in the top 5, no player was from America. It's just like America's leaderboard. Like half of them were Peruvian and the other one was like Taiwanese and some I don't know.
What's the Taiwanese player doing?
No, it's just like it's just like a Taiwanese nationality because he's like an immigrant basically. But
all right, yeah, okay.
But still, I definitely think EHOME ideally look elsewhere, and if they can't, I wonder what are they going to do really? Are they going to try to scrim maybe with ping disadvantage? That could happen.
I mean, it's possible. It's MVP did it, but like that's a very specific mindset.
They did it the other way around, though. They were living outside of China and scrimmed versus China. Oh, yeah. I guess it's the same story, sort of.
Yeah, like it requires a very specific mindset. Like a very specific, like basically, it requires like you to deal with a bunch of bullshit you normally wouldn't have to deal with, and like being fine with it. And I'm not sure if that's like that's like something the Chinese mindset has within it. The Korean mindset does, like because they keep bringing out examples of players who deal with a lot of random bullshit but get over it. But I'm not sure if the Chinese people have that. So,
I guess we can move on from EHOME now since we're entering a lot of speculation at this point because obviously we don't know what's going to happen to this team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another Chinese team that's worth noting though is Vici Gaming. They brought back the carry the hero that brought them so many titles in the past. How?
Basically, how I felt this was good. How I felt this was gonna happen was, they first went to knock on Xiaowei's door. Like Xiaowei, you want to? Oh shit, he's not in retirement now. Who do we go to? And then they walk next door. Like, how want to come back out of retirement? I think it's time. And then he brings this tier 3 team back into the tier 1.
Yes, it's very unfortunate because Vici Gaming, I think I don't know how often I've said on paper in this podcast so far, but they did really well in terms of like, and they looked nice on paper, and I think they had promising performances, but it just never worked. And with How now, and I mean Chuan has been playing with him for a while now, but we could look at him as a new member basically with How and Chuan, and then Lanem as coach. I'm not sure how effective that's going to be, but
I think Lanem should pick one of these guys and play himself.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was on the agenda at some point. Be like, yo.
He's literally just talking to HRIM, don't worry about it. You're the captain. Just keep playing your game. And then back in the time, he's like, I can't wait till TI when I kick this motherfucker. That's what he's thinking. Maybe that's what the rest of his team is thinking. I don't know, man.
I will say that for Lanem, he actually didn't want to play in this season because he has a child now. Like, his child was born,
okay.
I think it was born after Boston.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he wanted to take a break, and he only came back because EHOME begged him to. They're like, yo, God, dude, we're losing so hard. We're like the worst team in China right now. Please carry us. And he couldn't carry them. So odds are this coaching thing is
So they found the greatest carrier of them all. How?
Yeah. So VG look good again, I guess. We haven't really seen them play at
Right.
all with this lineup, I think. So
Basically, if you believe in how this team has a chance,
I believe in how. That's for
I
sure.
always. All right, here's a funny statistic. I don't think anybody's ever said out loud, but if you want, you can go look at every TI and look at all the TI results. All TI results are directly correlated to all the best winners are directly correlated to the best leaders. PPD, Puppy, Xiaowei. The only outlier to that is actually Hao, and he's the only non-leader. So I mean that's a funny little stat about Hao.
It's actually a good point. And you definitely have to. And I guess that's actually worth talking about. I mean, when he was with Vici Gaming the last time, there was that conflict about him being a leader, but him probably not being the best leader either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has a very strong personality.
Yeah, and
he shouldn't be a leader, but he has a leadership. He has a leader attitude, kind of, but he's not. He doesn't have the skills to be a leader.
Yeah. So we'll see if how this is going to work out. The same, by the way, with Chuan.
Yeah, Swan's very similar in that respect.
Yeah. Poor HYM, honestly. I do not pity him.
Yeah, man. He's he has to deal with Hao and Swan, and the land was just maybe one day, maybe. Oh God. Right.
Basically.
He has to fear for his fucking life, man.
Other teams in China right now. I don't think there was any other note. Oh wait, no. Team Eclipse.
Right.
The return of Shiki. The return of Shiki.
The return of the TI runner-up. This is gonna be hilarious. I guarantee you, this is what's gonna happen. Every cast from now until whenever Shiki gets kicked, it's gonna be, no man, this team is good because you know what, Shiki is a TI runner-up, and unless PPD is there to correct them, everyone's like, yeah, he's a TI runner-up. And all in the back of their minds are thinking, yeah, but he was complete trash. This guy can only play one hero. He basically proved that Q was an actual genius because Q somehow snuck this guy into the TI finals. I actually had... Alright, so basically I teased this a bit before we started the show. I had this very a tinfoil hat theory that Shiki is the cause of the entire mess that went down with Wings, Ace... with Wings... and Ace and EHOME. Because here's the thing, Shiki is so bad. I don't think any analyst, off the top of their head, if you ask them, and he'd be asked, oh, yeah, what's Shiki doing? I was like, is Shiki still playing? I'm not sure. In reality, Shiki was playing for the Academy team, but he wasn't even on the Academy team. He was the sub of the Academy team. He is tier 5 at this point, right? This is it's so ridiculous how bad he must have been to become the sub of the Academy team. But he had a plan, and his plan was, I need to convince all these different players to break apart, and then I'll take Shadow with me, and then I'll make a team. That's basically the plan. So he went to Ruru. Was like, man, you heard about those Wings guys? What about those Wings guys? They're leaving the squad without telling Ace. What? Nothing's happened yet. And then he goes to the Wings guys yo man, I heard they weren't paying you. You gotta take this. You gotta TR champions just like me, but you didn't win TR. I'm a runner up. Don't worry about it. I mean, basically, fucking Shiki, man. Fucking Shiki probably went to Shadows are you gonna take this from Wings? No, man. You're right. I shouldn't take this. Then they left Wings. Then he snitched on them to Ruru, who snitched on them to Ace, who banned them. Then he went to EHOME's you know who'd be great for a leader and for offlaner? Who? Wyatt and Faith Beyond. They're wow, that's a fucking great choice, right? It's a great choice. Wow, Shiki, you really know what's up. I know, don't I?
I feel like if he was actually that smart, he would be able to play more than 3 heroes.
Yeah, obviously he spent all of his time doing all his machinations just to end up on this tier 14 with Shadow, basically. That's basically the moral of the story is somehow Shiki made it back from the dumpster by creating this entire mess. That's the only explanation for why Shiki is on this team.
The funny thing is, though, again, on paper, like, this team is like, it's, I guess, yeah, Tier 4 sounds rather appropriate, but they've been part of, like, very, promising teams. I mean, LPC was, like, what, on LFI for, like, the most time when they were irrelevant. JDH was, what, I think Vici Gaming? No, not Vici Gaming. I can't put my...
JDH. All right, this is the part of the story I didn't get into. So when he convinced EHOME to do that, incidentally kicked out Sen and JDH from EHOME, and they went to both of them like, "Oh, that's so fucking terrible, guys! They kicked you. You know what? You should join me. You should join me because I'm gonna get Shadow on our team. It's gonna be great." And that's why I think Shiki was the mastermind, even though I have no basis at all in reality to prove that's the case.
I mean, he's gonna have the last laugh if he's actually gonna win TI.
I'm going to die laughing if he.
Lina is back in the meta, so
Shiki is relevant until they remember to ban him first phase, and then he's got nothing.
Hey, he has like, what, Lina, Queen of Pain? I think Lina, Queen of Pain, and Templar Assassin were his 3 heroes.
Yeah.
So you can ban 3 heroes.
I mean, you only need to ban 1. You only ban Lina. Everything else is like dealable.
Yeah, that's like a good point. Damn. Oh my god, Shiki's back. I don't expect anything from Team Eclipse.
No.
Like
Shadow. Maybe he spent a bit too much time like looking up to Eternal Envy, because this is literally like an Eternal Envy type team, in the sense that if this team does well, everybody will say Shadow is the greatest player on Earth, because that's literally what's going to have to happen. There's Shadow literally has to carry 4 dead bodies, or 3 dead bodies and a Shiki, which is even worse.
Do we even know who the 5th player is yet? I don't even think.
Sen, JDH, LPC. Oh, Shiki is the 5th player, because we keep forgetting he's actually a player.
I think that is it for the Chinese region. I'm trying to find another team. No, I think that's it. All right, Europe, I suppose. Actually, let's do NA first because NA is quick. So Demon joins Complexity together with Firo. Firo obviously played for Bears going into their DAC and Kiev Major qualifiers, like a 9K MMR player, very talented, very highly skilled, but also looked very limited at first because, it's just like every pop star that joins a team at first has like a lot of issues, right?
Yeah, but, almost all of them.
Yeah, but looked very promising, and now with Demon they have... I wonder if Demon is going to do calls in game at all, or if it's gonna be swindles.
I feel like
if you were swindles, would you let Demon do calls?
Okay, so there is like the theoretical was the best thing to do, and then there is the personal interest thing. Let's go with the first one. Would I let Demon do the calls? I would, if I was Melons. I might do it, because guess what? Demon's very good at. Demon was very good at making calls for Pinoy's to beat OG. He's got something in there. Right? He knows. He at least knows the game. But from a self-interest perspective, I don't think Melons would ever let him do it, because it'd be very... Actually, maybe he might. Here's the thing: is I think Complexity won't kick him, because I think like Melons and Z Freak, are like brothers, right? So, and like they have a very good like relationship with Complexity. So, like I was thinking in my head, if he lets like Demon eventually take over the captain role, Melons is extinct technically, because he doesn't bring much else to this like roster. Like you can upgrade him easily, but I guess because he has like such a good relationship with the Complexity and like his brothers on here, I think it's very unlikely.
He's very unlikely, because he's basically what they built the team on. Like he's the identity. Like he's like the brand ambassador almost. It's as if you have said, EG kicking Fear at any point.
He would never kick Fear. He would never kick Fear until like he retired himself.
Exactly.
Right. So yeah, I guess in that sense he's completely fine. The question I have for this team is I don't really think like they have enough skill to compete at like international level. I'm not even sure they have enough skill to like fight out of the NA region.
It's difficult. It's difficult. I will say that I have a lot of hopes for them with what's his face,
Hero?
Firo now. Because so the way I look at it is, I think that Zach Zfreak is the one of the best supports in NA.
Yeah.
And in terms of individual skill, I think he's probably
Yeah, if he was
yeah.
if he wasn't the brother of Melons, he might have left and gone to a better team.
Who knows? He might have. Maybe.
Like it's possible.
It's possible, yeah.
Like,
But
put it this way, he probably could have gotten some offers from better teams.
True. But yeah, so the way I look at it, he's definitely up there in terms of like best support in A right now. And then we have Firo, who potentially could, be another like Ana, Miracle, Sumail kind of type, right? And then Mu is a very solid play. He's like I think you'll find it very difficult to like really see a game where like Mu lost them the game, kind of type thing. Like he's a very stable, very solid player.
Mm-hmm.
Who, in my opinion, has more impact as an offlaner. At least the way I look at the games, to me, he looks more impactful as an. And then you have Demon, who, if you look at TNC's run at TI, just in terms of individual skill, Demon was still very much up there. Sure, he did a lot of shot calling and drafting, and that was honestly very great, and I think it helped them win a lot of games. But I think also in terms of individual skill, he's not bad. He was never bad individually skill-wise, so...
Yeah, he just had to, like, travel across the world, across multiple countries and teams to finally prove to those NA guys, I'm pretty good.
Yeah. And then Swindles, I honestly think that Complexity looked best when he was playing offline. Sure, they got farther when he was playing mid, but I believe that was also because they had Moon Meander and Fly on that team, so that changed a lot. But when they left, I think the Complexities looked best when he was on offlane. I want to say he had like a limited hero pool in terms of heroes that he was really, really good with. But I still think that this is probably the best shot Complexity has, in my opinion, at getting far in an event that they've had probably since Fly
Moon Meander days.
Yeah, Moon Meander and Fly. No offense to the Swedish guys, but I never thought that the Swedish thing clicked. But again, obviously, I also don't know if this is going to click. Again, there are real concerns regarding Demon Swindles, right, in terms of personality.
Basically, if you're like Complexity, if you're looking at it from their point of view, this is a pretty good like roster for them, because this is like a pretty good like efficiency budget, that type of roster where like the what you're paying out. And the gamble rate you're getting in return is pretty decent. I
agree. And I think this
might not turn out well, but as like a roster move holistically, this isn't bad.
But also, and I think this is their sweet spot basically, because if you look at the squad that made it far in TI5, Moon Meander and Fly at the time, nobody had them on their radar in terms of these, like, if you look at Fly, basically he got kicked in secret at that point.
Fly was basically like persona non grata, I guess.
Basically, and Moon Meander was like a nobody at that point, because he had transitioned from him. Yeah, exactly.
And then like for whatever reason, everyone's like Han trash, but a lot of the good players came from Han.
Yeah. So basically, I think, and then they had God, what's his name? He'll kick me for forgetting his name. They had that carry player. Oh my God, I can't. Let's not.
Lip?
No. That was the Swedish guy. But I'm gonna Google this. But yeah, so I think that the whole having a team that doesn't have like the hugest expectations, especially like in terms of like fan perspective, right? It likely is going to work best for them, I think.
Okay.
Zizzy. Zizzy, yeah. I had the Z and the Y, but I kept coming back to Zach.
It's a ridiculous ID to remember.
Yeah. So I think this is their best shot that they've had in a while, and if Thunderbirds doesn't stay in NA, it's probably the best.
It's easier.
Yeah, it's definitely easier. But I think they're gonna stay in NA. I think it makes sense for Thunderbirds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, other teams. I guess NP is still worth mentioning, even though their roster change happened like a while ago. But they obviously added. Paladin fodder.
Obviously, MSS is wondering why Bone 7 is looking at his chair all the time.
It's actually
Like,
hilarious because MSS tweeted out, "Guys, I'm Bone 7," and then I
yeah,
thought to
right?
myself, "Well, technically, Bone 7 is sitting right behind you, and
Right.
if I were you, I would be very careful about the drinks and food he gives you."
I will say I think MSS is a much more consistent than Bone 7.
100%.
But, like, Eternal Envy, he loves his crazies. He loves his crazies. And Bone 7, there is no offlaner that was quite as crazy and as consistent as Bone 7 was.
But at the same time, I think you know how often sometimes players get like, like, oh, they're like a low reward, high risk player, but Bone
Yeah.
7 was like a
High risk.
high risk, but also incredibly high reward player, in my
No,
opinion.
he was like the highest risk. Like, there is no. I dare you to name like another player that was like as high risk
Yeah,
as Bone 7, right? But like on the other hand, he did almost single-handedly win them like one tournament once. It was like fucking crazy. I forget which tournament it was.
yeah, me neither. I
But
can't
yeah, he's
remember
like
either.
super high risk, super high reward.
Um,
But I actually do think they need a stabilizing force because they already have like a high risk, high reward player in Envy, and they have like they kind of have another one in AUI.
right, but that's why I think that Fata and Pi are very
A very like stabilizing
yeah,
forces.
they're like really good pillars to like rest on because Fata, and I think this is what made him this is what allowed Cloud9 and then Liquid also to be such strong teams is they could always rely on him. I think it's very difficult to find a mid laner that is always very consistent in his performances, in the sense that even if he does have a bad laning stage, he will always come back in terms of farm. That was very impressive. Like, give him any hero, and he'll always be at the top of the net worth. Like Beastmaster, how are you the top net worth as Beastmaster without a Midas? Like, I just don't know how, but he just did it, and he just killed. Like, he just wiped teams. Just, oh yeah, I have Necrobook 3 refresher at like minute 20. Yeah, that's no big deal. Okay, that's a bit exaggerated, but still.
Yeah, and maybe he's learned a few things, because if you hear like Eternal Envy's account, like Fado was like, yeah man, Eternal Envy, we're gonna be awesome, and then eventually went to, God damn it, Eternal Envy, what are you doing? And then he went to Kuroki, and now he's back. So maybe things have mellowed out a bit for everybody involved.
That's actually the thing also I really liked about Fata and Envy, because as far as I could judge, their relation was very rough in the sense that both, like, they respected each other, and that was like, I think that's like the biggest thing to overcome if you have two leader type personalities, in the sense that two players with ideas of how to play the game, right, but still be able to respect, and at the end of the day realize that everybody has like a good point, because there was that drama where supposedly one of them screamed at the other guy, like really shouted at him very angrily at like ESL1 or something. There was a bit of drama there, but ultimately the team still pulled through, and they managed to like always be
Get
like
second.
yeah, always get second.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. It really depends. Like, I don't think screaming is very bad.
No,
I'm also the guy who thinks it's awesome that Newbee punch each other in the face and then won TI. So maybe I have a skewed perspective on that. So
that is awesome though. Or yeah, other teams in NA. I think that's actually pretty much it. Yeah. Then let's look towards Europe, which is the last region here. Alliance, they kicked EGM again.
Of course.
I think EGM has been in and out of that team like 10 times at this point.
Yeah. He is simultaneously the problem and the solution.
I will say that I've heard rumors where, it's not, I mean, if you just look at performances, I don't think you can ever really say that he's like the worst player on the team, but I've heard stuff where he's like pulling the team down in terms of mentality. Like, if you don't have the right mentality to go into like practice or like officials, I think that can weigh the team down a lot more than playing bad.
Yeah, like I'm not. It's hard to say. It really depends on the type of mentality he is, because I feel like he can deal with a guy who's super competitive eventually. Because like a guy who's super competitive, like, yeah, he might scream and yell, but deep down, this is all coming from a place because he wants to win.
Right. No, but what I'm getting at is there was like, people say that he's basically the opposite of competitive. Like, whatever. Like
Yeah,
very, very laid back. Very,
yeah. In
it's
that case, I wouldn't want him then. Like,
yeah.
if your idea is just to win, but then if you look at Alliance, if you look at all the roster changes they made over the year, I'm not actually sure they want to win.
It's interesting because they keep coming back to EGM, right? Even though they know, or let's say there is that mentality problem. Let's say that is there, right, and that is the reason. It is interesting they would keep coming back to him, and I know that I've talked to Kelly a lot, and I know that there's like this like family feeling in Alliance, like they're a family, right? The TI3 winning squad, they're a family. They treat each other as like part of a family, basically. I know it's funny, even though they kick EGM all the time, they still consider each other family, and I think that is why they keep coming back to him, and I think that's also why they went back to Bulldog at some point, even though I think
Bulldog's way past his days.
Yeah, exactly. Because they realize, we still are friends. We understand each other, and there is a certain strength in playing with people like each other, basically. But
yeah, like Nip.
Basically, yeah.
It's just funny because of where Nip is now.
That is why I think, that is why I agree with you in the sense that it doesn't really look like they make these we want to win at no matter what the cost kind of transfer moves,
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, also this is something that I wanted to mention during Complexity. I think this is also sort of the idea behind the team. Like, I don't think if Complexity as a brand wanted to win no matter what, they definitely probably would have at least considered replacing Swindles at some point. Not necessarily. I mean, you always if you want to win no matter what, you definitely always consider replacing any player at some point, for a potential upgrade. But the way I look at Complexity is they have never, at least once, even for a second, considered removing either Zach or Kyle. Like, I don't think they would ever consider that.
Yeah, well, Jason Lake's kind of a funny guy, I guess, because he has a very specific sort of philosophy towards his teams, and like that. This is like one of them. Like he doesn't. Assuming like you are a person who like works hard, and I have no reason to believe like Melon's for all like the crap he does or how unskilled he might be compared to like the top tier. This isn't a guy I've ever thought this guy doesn't like put in his hours. This guy doesn't put in his work.
Right.
Like I've never thought that.
Exactly.
Even though like I had no reason to believe otherwise. I just never thought that. So like. So like I imagine that's like part of the reason like Jason Lake's like, okay, this guy will always get a pass because he does have like the winner's mentality. Like there are players who who have the skills to win but they don't have the mentality.
Right.
And then there are players who don't have the skills to win but they do have the mentality. And in a team game like having a guy like that is actually pretty good, especially if that guy is like the leader of the team. So I can kind of see where he's coming from. In that sense,
and I wonder if it's basically the same with or very similar with Alliance, where they make decisions not solely based on what will secure us victory, but rather, having a good environment, having like a healthy environment,
or like basically they choose comfort over victory. Like imagine it's like the opposite of like what Liquid would do in CS:GO. Like we should get that simple guy. Yeah, like oh my god.
Basically, yes. I mean, you can see that by the decision they made or keep on making to keep their roster Swedish, right?
Yeah, Swedish all the time.
The fact that you choose to stick with one nationality is very telling of what your mentality is for competition. It's not bad by any means. But at the same time, it very much restricts your possibilities.
Yeah, like there have been like I've been playing one nationality teams that have been pretty good, even in like recent history. Like MVP last year was really good, but they even like when you look at the way they did the roster moves compared to Alliance, you can tell like that version of MVP just wanted to win.
Yeah,
didn't give a fuck about anything else. They just wanted to win.
And they did everything that was possible to do that, right? They played in China, they scrim versus Chinese teams and all that shizzle. And yeah, you're right. It does feel like sometimes is Alliance really putting like 150% out there to make sure that they win? Maybe not. Maybe
really.
Not really.
Not
yeah.
really.
But still, That's one of these things. They do look good on like this roster, even with EGM, look good in the qualifiers for Kiev. If you look, they single-handedly eliminated what's it called?
Bears.
Bears.
Yeah, I remember that.
Not necessarily because Alliance is such a strong team or was such a strong team, but just because of their style, right? But they were a good team. They fought very valiantly against Secret as well. So,
Yeah, but like it wasn't enough. I don't think they're a good team at that level, but I don't think they have what it takes to get to the next level.
I very much agree. It doesn't seem like it. Maybe with Pablo now, I don't think that changing one player is gonna change everything. But
Unless he's like a very good player.
Yeah. All right. Another European team, and I think this is worth talking about because it's not necessarily that big of a team, but Cloud9, aka Danish Bears, they got dropped by the organization. And they initially decided to disband and go separate ways, but now 4 of them decided, hey, we'll just keep on playing. It was really interesting. The announcement was like, yeah, disband, and everybody's going their different ways. And there were a lot of rumors, and BabyKnight confirmed that initially him and Ace were going to make a new team, and then Rise, Noya, and Hessejo were going to make another team. But then Ace decided, you know what, I'm just going to stick with these guys. So it's really interesting.
That's one story. Here's another one.
Yes.
Another fictional one.
No,
like
it's
they're like, how do we kick BabyKnight without kicking him? Guys, we've been dropped from Cloud9. I feel like we should all get our separate ways. Isn't that right? Yeah, man. Let's all separate our ways. And then they go to Ace. Like, Ace, you gotta let him down a little bit gently. Just pretend you're going with him. And then at the very last second split, like, come on, BabyKnight. We all love you, man. But we just have to go separate ways. I'll go with you. And then it goes halfway. It's like, oh shit, I left something at the car. By the way, I'm going back with them to Danish Bears. See ya. Like, that's what I'm thinking has happened.
That is very well a possibility. Very true. But honestly, I think BabyKnight actually recorded a vlog where he tells his own perspective from from his experience with the team, and the drama aside, apparently like Hessejo and Noya were like toxic towards him or whatever. That aside, I think he mentioned something really interesting, that the team, they had issues regarding a leader. Ace was doing drafting and leading while also playing carry, which I think is like the worst thing you could do probably. Shout out to Eternal Envy, by the way.
The boy Eternal Envy.
And then they switched it around with like Noya drafting or Hessejo drafting, and then like Rise as an in-game leader, and then it never worked because they just never found a leader. And when I saw, or when I actually only read like the TLDR on Reddit, so I can't say when I saw that. But when I read that, I immediately thought of like an NA team. Like that's like a classic NA problem, not having a leader.
Yeah.
And this is also similar to the issue that Alliance has had. They stuck with like a pure Danish team, and I'm not saying that they purposely wanted to have a full Danish roster, but I think initially it was actually, but they did end up with a pure Danish roster. They now expanded and they got an NA player. Ironically, though, they didn't get a leader; they got a mid player, like another just core.
Yeah, that's
so I don't know. It feels very random, and I don't think they're going to be good at all. But BabyKnight's team is also not very good at all. I don't think. Crescendo, the whole Synderin stack, with Ake.
Synderin coming back for that TI qualification to drop out.
Yes. So in terms of positions, I believe it's BabyKnight on 1, Excalibur on 2, Synderin on 3, EGM and Ake, which I think that's pretty cool. EGM and Ake support pair is back. Yeah. But I don't know. I just don't think this team has it.
You mean like every Synderin team?
It's not even because of Synderin. Even if you replace Synderin and put like another offlaner in there, I just
like none of these. All right. Basically, we have 2 supports who are way past their prime. BabyKnight, who has never really proven anything on LAN, and Excalibur, who's most famous for playing Tinker and almost killing Fnatic like ages ago, right? Like
pretty much. And BabyKnight, he hasn't even proven that much online either, honestly.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, that's even worse because at least online, right?
this team is shrouded in question marks in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think Excalibur especially. Sure, he was heralded as like the biggest. Like, you know, I remember all the memes back then. Oh, what? He's like of Chinese descent, but he's also Swedish. He's like the super player, right? He has to be like God at Dota. That was like a meme back then. But I just look at him and now I don't think to myself, well, he can play Tinker, and he used to play Tiny sometimes because he had to fill in Era's shoes. But I can't really think of anything else he would be doing.
So he's like Shiki, except different heroes.
That's the thing. Like, unlike Shiki, though, Excalibur never really had the chance to really display anything else outside of playing Tinker because it just kept picking him Tinker.
That's kind of funny.
Shiki, at least, you know, he was picked. Like, they kept picking him different heroes, but he just sucked at them.
Yeah, like he kept getting Lesh, and everybody proved he can't play Lesh.
Excalibur, sure. I mean, I'm not saying that he only played Tinker. He definitely played a bunch of other heroes, but it's just he never really had an opportunity to prove himself, and I don't think this is the one either.
Yeah, because another way you can say it is basically Excalibur never got the chance to prove himself because for whatever reason there aren't that many. Even though like Alliance was really good, there haven't been that many Swedish teams outside of
at the same
Alliance,
time, though,
right?
he chose to step back a little bit and finish study because I think he's still just 17 or 18 or something.
Oh, okay, that's pretty young.
Like when he played with Fnatic, he was like really young, and he chose to finish high school still. So,
all right, that's fine. That's a bit different from Shiki, who I know is dead, whereas this guy's just starting.
Basically, yeah. This is but still, I have like a lot of question marks around him, where I think this is a nice stack for now. But it's never going to last past the TI qualifiers. If they even make it for the TI qualifiers.
Yeah, I mean... I think everybody can agree with me after watching Cinder and Cast. They probably want the scene to fail, and they want it to fail quickly.
It's so rough to say that, but yeah.
It's cruel, right? It's cruel because Synderen does actually want to win, and he actually is a good captain. He really knows his fucking Dota.
He does.
He's a really he is a top tier caster for this game.
Yeah, it feels really bad. Man. All right, let's move on for another European team. I think that's actually it. Oh, NIP. I mean, I guess they replaced Synderen and got Insania, and ever since they just looked the same to me. I think NIP is just as bad as they were before.
Yeah, like this wasn't really a team that was going anywhere.
Yep. What else? Well, I guess there's a bit of CIS news. You know, Empire replacing King R with Roger, which is funny to me because to me, King R was always one of the better players in that team. Obviously they also still have FN, who's like a really
good player.
Yeah, he's like a really explosive player, but to me King R was like a cornerstone of the team. I don't know what it looked like in terms of communication, obviously, but to me it just looked like a very dependable player. So we'll see how that was going to work out, I suppose. But I guess that's it then in terms of roster changes. All right. That is also it for Dota 2 topic-wise, and we can move on to CSGO, which I have not talked about in like 2 months, I think. Let's jump into the juiciest topic, though, something that I actually can talk about. It is NIP, and actually, let me just rewrite this topic. NIP in CSGO. What a squad! Just to quickly intro this, NIP. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but NIP lost in the qualifier for the minor, for the major. Right.
So basically, they lost the qualifier to the qualifier to the qualifier.
That is hilarious.
Did you? I probably didn't see this, but basically, it was classic. It was a classic exist veto map pick, where basically both teams got to veto 3 maps each, and then what existed was like, you know what? Everything I know about this team, iGame, is telling me their best map is Train. Let's play them on Train. So they let Train go all the way to the end. And iGame's like, what? And then iGame beat them. And then they did the same thing in the last match against Space Soldiers, where they went all the way to Cobble and then they got beat again. And that is the death of Nip.
I mean, at least he's smart enough to know what the other teams are good at, I guess.
Yeah, he just gives it to them. It
is very hilarious. It it almost feels like it. You know when they didn't make it to the major last time around,
Yeah.
it was like a huge deal, right? Because it was the first
Yeah.
major that NP was never going to be part of.
Mm-hmm.
But them not making it this time around almost feels like a logical conclusion. Like not making it again. Obviously, I'm not saying that it was logical for them to drop out this early, but
Mm-hmm.
them not making it again almost feels like a logical conclusion because obviously one of the biggest issues with NIP is their reluctancy to actually change rosters, really change
Yeah.
rosters, right?
And not just change the fifth man, but change the core four.
Yes.
Right. So basically, if you were if you're following the reactions, basically when they lost the major qualifier to famously Tamur, who I think he will forever be known as the man who killed Nip. When they lost to Tamur, everybody thought, okay, too bad, but they did win. They did win Oakland. Maybe they'll come back. So this will be as far as they drop, and then they drop further, and like, okay, well, you know what? They just started getting the drink in. Maybe the honeymoon phase didn't. No, they dropped further, and then they dropped further. It's like a Looney Tunes cartoon where like you think, you think after the first drop it's over. No, it just keeps dropping through the floor over and over and over again. And now here we are at the bottom of the minor qualifiers after losing to iGame, Red Raven, and Space Soldiers. And among the three of them, the only one who has like a lot of notoriety relative to that level of play is Space Soldiers. Like iGame is like a up and coming Finnish team, but it's like they've never proven anything on land. Like this is fucking crazy for NIP. And so the question is, will they finally pull the trigger on this lineup? And I think if they don't, I think this is time. Like they've had so many chances to ignore their like problems, and they always got like one or two tournament results that convince them it wasn't a problem. If they don't change here, like I don't even know what the hell is going on in their fucking minds if they don't change here.
And the thing is, if they don't change here, you gotta ask yourself, like, what does it take for them to actually change? Like, what literally has to happen for them to not necessarily realize, but for them to accept that this is not gonna work out anymore? Like, do they literally have to lose to like me, playing?
Right?
I don't know. It's just I'm just really curious.
It feels like there's no bottom left to go to at this point.
Yes.
But here's the thing: is there was actually this famous StarCraft 2 player. I don't know if you ever watched StarCraft 2. His name was Marine King, and famously, this was one of the most mechanically talented players we'd ever seen. In fact, I think he still is, even though like years have gone by. But he was famously an idiot, and like the only person I thought that was me. This was me. I never said it out loud, but I always thought this guy was stupid. Because what happened was he never actually adapted or changed his playstyle. He always kept running the same, either super greedy or an all-in build. And then he kept running this style over and over again. And he never learned from his mistakes. And he thought, okay, so you've basically lost 2 years doing this. Surely you will learn. And no, he didn't learn. And that's literally like the tale of Marine King, the guy who's like, kind of like that rat who keeps picking the cheese that electrocutes him. That's kind of like what Marine King is. This is like the analogy for Nip. You've literally like been electrocuted. Like the cheese is on fucking fire at this point. Are you really gonna touch the cheese again? Nip, you gotta change.
Oh boy. If you had to move around the pieces, what would you move around? Pick players from another team. If you want to.
Okay, so basically, there's actually there's a massive Swedish shuffle undergoing right now and a Danish shuffle. So there's actually a lot of choices to make, and because there's basically the crash of NIP and like a bunch of the crashes of these other teams, like Godsend's not doing well at all, and then Valde's been kicked, and there's like a bunch of like really good Danish players below that. There's like there's a bunch of crazy choices you can make right now. So if it was up to me and then I had like the rest of the teams, first guy I want is Twist from Godsent. The second guy I want is Forrest from Inip because I still think he's pretty good.
Right.
And then the leader, I prefer a Danish leader, like Hunded maybe. or Pronax. You go Hunden, Pronax, or I guess maybe Freddie B, because he does some leading for Epsilon, but it'd be a very different type of team. But if you go Hunden or Pronax, then you have to like fill the rest of the squad with a bunch of talent. In which case, like the third guy I get might be like Rez, who's like up and coming like Swedish player who's aggressive, has a lot of talent.
Right.
And then the fourth guy I want might actually be Get Right, but critically, I'd have Get Right take on the support role. Like he has to completely change his style. He is no longer a priority in my team. Like he no longer gets his spots. He no longer gets his roles. His job is to facilitate the others. And if he accepts that, I'd take him.
If he doesn't, or if he wouldn't.
If he doesn't, then I'd pick up a random Danish guy, maybe.
Right.
Like it's gonna get really weird because maybe Nip might be like crazy. Here's the thing: they were delusional enough to think they could get away like Virtus Pro style with just this 4 core forever. Because, all right, to put it into context, I guess the difference between Nip and Virtus Pro is always willing to change, even though they don't change the players. They change like the rules, they change the maps they play, they change the positions, they change who the star player is. Like they do a lot of things. They do a lot of things to make sure that every time they fall down, and they fall down a lot, they find a way back up. NIP has never changed. They've always gone with the same philosophy. Force Get Right out of the stars. Exist as the leader, I guess. And then Freiburg is Angie Fragger, and then the fifth guy will be the guy who like brings it all together. That's always been their philosophy, and they've never changed it. So that's why this Nip core can't stay together. Is because they themselves are unwilling to change.
Right.
Whereas like Virtus Pro, I'm like, yeah, fine, you've proven it. You've proven you can. Every time you fall, you can get back up. This Nip roster has fallen, and they're not getting back up.
I don't think so either. I mean, like you said, I think I Am Oakland was like one of those moments where you thought, maybe is there still life in them?
That's literally gonna go down as the last time Magic was alive.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see that kind of Magic anytime soon.
The era of Magic is dead. Long live the era of Reason.
The era of Reason. Just because we are already talking about NIP, let's just quickly talk about the Europe minor,
right.
The qualifier. Any surprises for you among the 8 teams? The 8 teams that made it.
Okay, I actually think Envious is trash, but apparently they're good online. And the reason I think they're trash is because I've only watched their on LAN games where they were truly trash.
Right.
Like let me pull up the results. Like this is like the amount of losses they've received are pretty fucking ridiculous. Let's see here. Summit. So so at Summit, did you watch this one? This was pretty far back. Maybe you were able to watch this one.
I probably watched it, but I can't remember.
They got destroyed by SK, and then they lost 2-1 to Optic Gaming.
Oh no, I watched it. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I remember.
And it was like a complete trash by Envy, and like Optic Gaming. They were using Jason R, who they didn't even think was like a permanent fifth, and they still don't have a fucking leader. And then Envious, who I know you didn't watch this one. This is gonna shock you, all right? So basically, they got trashed by Hellraisers, but that's fine. Hellraisers is a better team than them. And then, actually, well, they didn't get to play Trick. And then they got trashed by G2, right?
Which is fair because G2.
That's fair, yeah. But basically, the only reason like I feel like NVS is truly trash is because their best player is Scream, and Scream didn't show up for any of these games. So it feels like Happy, and like Happy is still doing his like weird bait style thing. So basically, they're most consistent, and like XMS has basically been lost in like the shuffle. He hasn't really shown me like he hasn't really shown me the skill he had when he was playing for LDLC.
Right.
So it feels like their most consistent force is Sixer, and that's like a problem.
Yeah.
Like, that's a problem. But maybe it's different online because I didn't watch any of those games.
But it doesn't really matter though how they perform online because it's still online.
I mean, I mean, they still made it past Nip, so
That's a very low bar, though.
that is a very low bar. That is fucking hilarious. Okay, Penta. I think Sunny is really good. I think Sunny is I think we were talking about that like Swedish shuffle. I think
Right.
if you can do it, you might want to steal Sunny away from Penta. I think he's pretty good. Big isn't surprising to me because it's online and that Nex is pretty good online. iGame's pretty good. LDLC, yeah, that's fine. Dignitas is a bit surprising because I feel like I feel like they, because at the time they were having like roster issues, and they kicked out 2 players, and they basically had like Froman and Tensky fill in, but they're now fully standing in, so that's fine. And yeah, I think that's about it.
All right. What about Fnatic Academy, or whatever they will have to name themselves into to not cause any confusion?
Yeah, basically they're like leaving Fnatic. I think they're okay at this level. I mean, I don't really see. I don't like I said. I don't really watch the online games, but I feel like if you just look at like the results, they've only just like been treading water around this level. I don't really expect them to get past this point. Like how many teams get out of here? 3 of them. The 3 teams that I think will likely get out is Kinguin, LDLC, and one of Big or Penta. I think those are 3 teams. I think those are the 3 teams that'll get out, based off of like what I know about them.
I'm surprised that you'd actually choose it that way. I would probably go with both Penta and Big at the same time, though.
Penta and Big.
Maybe I'm underrating Kingwin, but
Okay, here's the thing about Kinguin is they're like very high. They're like an eternal envy kind of risk. Like they can upset a bunch of better teams. They could lose to a bunch of worse teams. So if you actually just want to go off of pure results, I think the 2 most consistent teams at this qualifier right now are Penta and Big, because they keep like running into each other. And then is this on LAN or online actually? Okay, it's offline, so that's fine. I'll go ahead and say Envious will lose because it's on LAN. So basically, Big and Penta is all right. So I guess the current problem I have with Big, and less so with Penta, is I feel like Big has Nex, and like it's kind of cruel to say, but I've never truly believed Nex can do it. But to be fair, this is like a tier 2, tier 3-ish LAN, and like he eats these for breakfast. So actually, since it's on LAN, I will go for Big and Penta. And I'll kick off Kinguin, because like I feel like Kinguin's too gambly for me.
Do you know how it will be seeded into the groups? Will just be like straight up first. Like the inverse.
I think I'll be inverse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I think. Okay, so if I look at this qualifier, the 2 best players of this qualifier are probably Scream and Jacob. But if below them, I think pretty close. Sunny is really good, and I think Nex will perform well because these are like lesser players. So yeah, that's not a bad choice. Okay.
All right. Just to wrap this one up, we still have the Danish shuffle basically to talk about, or rather, Valde getting kicked from, or not kicked. Officially, he's benched.
Yeah, like Kerrigan was benched.
No, yeah, probably.
They even have the fucking They even have the same picture of him sitting on the bench.
Really?
Yeah, it's because it's the same. It's the same org refresh.
That is hilarious.
Yeah,
I didn't even see that. So yeah, what's your take on that? I found it hilarious because I mean most people found it hilarious because Thorin had just released his video.
It's
Like
like the perfect EHON timing
yeah,
or anti-timing, depending on how you look at it.
basically.
Okay, so my take on it is I think he was the best player on the team, and he's the guy like everybody was looking towards. Like this is the next rising talent among Danish's apparently inexhaustible field of talent that literally never ends. So, so I feel like it's a strange move by Heroic to kick him. But if you were going to kick him, now is the time because they got upset at the minor like nip and lost. I'm not sure if you knew that, but they lost that minor too, just like nip.
Yeah, don't no, I remember.
Yeah, so they've been pretty underwhelming since then. Actually, they've been pretty underwhelming on LAN even for what I was expecting them to be, because like they had that good upset at Katowice where they beat a bunch of good teams, the best of ones, and then were able to get into the playoffs. But here they were, but in like every. I mean, let me pull up the results because these are pretty bad results for them, considering who they were playing. Tours. Austin. All right. So basically, you have Austin where they got to the playoffs, but in order to get the playoffs, they beat LG, who they should have beat, and then they beat Hellraisers, who's close to their level, and then they lost to Immortals. Right. So that's like par. Like that's par, right?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
The disgusting one was when they was tours where they lost to Mouse. Like fair enough, I guess. Mouse is like an unknown quantity on LAN, and online they've been doing pretty well. And I think Oscar literally like killed them, like mauled them to death or something. I remember, like, and then no, the shocking one though is like they lost to Misfits, who is the American French team. Or basically it's Sean Garris,
right.
Shazam, Sick, and then two French players that are unknown up until this point, Amanek and Devil Duvec. And it was actually a pretty like clear victory, not clear victory. Like it could have gone to Heroic's way, but it ended up going 2-1 for Misfits. So it feels like they've been pretty lackluster on LAN, and then they lost online to let me check, Outlaws. Who the hell are Outlaws? Okay, Outlaws are the guy who copied like Monte Cristo's Renegades logo, but then just changed it and made it blue. And then the Bulgarian team, and then they lost to iGame. Apparently, iGame's like rooting Nip and Heroic, and then they lost to Fnatic Academy.
All right. So how do you? All right. I mean, I think it's difficult to assess why exactly they kicked Valde because I mean the impression that I got not only from you but obviously also from Thorn's video and just from community reactions is that if you just look at skill, you probably wouldn't replace him.
Yeah, I'm guessing this always happens. It's probably an internal issue. Like not sure if you know this, but FNX was also kicked from Immortals, even though they just got to a finals of a tournament.
Yes.
Right. So it's like a similar ish, though I doubt it's as bad as FNX's thing.
But do you think though that if look, the way I look at it though is that if the team, and maybe I'm like overthinking this, but if like a team like Heroic who can't really afford to drop their best player basically, or one of their best players like that, because they, as you singled out or as you pointed out, they're doing very bad. If they are willing to replace that guy, like how awful does he have to be, basically, or in a sense is how bad does playing with him have to be, right?
Here's the thing though, this would be bad if it was NA, or like this would be bad if it was any other region, but it's actually Denmark. So the thing about Denmark is they literally have like infinite talent that's still untapped.
That's a good point.
So basically, they had Cadian fill in, and Cadian like kicked the shit kick the shit out of people. He's still pretty good. They have A&J, who's like the rising talent for another Danish squad. He's pretty good. They still have like a bunch of other guys who can fill in. So maybe it isn't as bad as much as they maybe like Snappy just thinks we need a new look because we've played together for a pretty long time. But it's kind of strange in the fact that he's already been proven on LAN, whereas I feel like Nico's doing fine on LAN, but Jugi isn't. I guess because Jugi is the opper, they want to keep him. I'm not really sure, but basically, I don't think it's bad enough for any team to look at the circumstances and think, okay, maybe we should avoid picking up Valde. I think Valde is like a very hot commodity for a bunch of teams. I think a bunch of NA teams will want him. I don't think either of the top Danish teams will want him. Astralis because they're the best, or they're one of the best, and North because Valde in the server doesn't necessarily solve like North's issues, because the North's issues are CT sided, and Valde doesn't play like the bad positions that they need in order to fill up their CT side. So that's why he won't be going to either of those teams. And then it's a question of what Valde thinks of like the current scene, because maybe he could go to NIP, maybe that's a possibility, but he has to realize NIP is like a fucking disaster, so I don't think he'll do that. And then where does he go from there? Like nobody knows for certain, because I know Godsend's changing, NIP's changing. You have Valde out there now, and like there's still a bunch of good Danish players up and rising. There's some decent like Swedish players, Rez, Adder, Freddie B, those guys, they're rising up too. So, and then maybe he could convince like Rubino to get the fuck out of Dignitas eventually. Like there's because so many of these teams are collapsing at the same time, nobody really knows what's going to happen right now. That's like the question mark.
So I guess we'll have to wait until the dust settles then.
Yeah, especially because if Fnatic fail in the upcoming lands and then fail at the major, that's like 5 other guys that could potentially like make this even more complicated.
All right. I guess that pretty much just answers my questions regarding the whole scenario.
Okay.
I guess we'll have to wait and see, until the dust settles. Is there anything else CS:GO related you want to talk about?
I think SK will win everything because they have the 2 best players in the world, or not the 2 best, 2 of the top best.
When I watched them play the Summit, that's also what I had in, like, that's literally what I kept thinking, like, how are you gonna stop them now? Like, how? I just don't see it.
Jesus Christ, you have like Coldzera and for like killing everything in sight.
It was really hilarious, or it was really funny to see players on the couch and be like, it's like a 1v3 situation. You're like, but it's Coldzera. It's Coldzera. Don't worry, he got this.
He wins these 11 times out of 10.
Yeah. And he does. And then he
does win them 11 times out of 10. Yeah, like, I was unsure about SK, but they've basically proven they've solved the riddle, and now they're going to kick the shit out of people. Yep.
We're going to start a new era of SK Gaming, and I very much like that. I always like it if there's... I mean, obviously I want like the best competition there is, right? But I like it if there's like one team that dominates everybody else.
Yeah, like the only question for SK Gaming is how they match up against Astralis, and then even then, I feel like skill wise, I feel it leans towards SK because I think Coldzera and Fur are like better than most players right now. And then there's also the question of Nico. Like, is Nico really gonna let Coldzera beat him? Like, because Coldzera and Nico are like very similar types of talents,
yes.
Like prodigy level talents. What's gonna happen if they meet again? I don't think Nico's gonna let it go down. So we'll see.
We're in for exciting times in CS:GO, I think.
Yeah, we're wrapping up towards the major and then we're wrapping up for TI and Dota. So it's gonna be a very crazy few months.
Yes, and that is, I think, a very good way to end today's episode. We're going to be very busy in the next few months, and that means we're going to return hopefully more regularly for like a weekly actual schedule. There's lots to talk about, so I'm itching to record another episode just next week.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Steven, for sticking around. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in. And again, hopefully we'll see each other next week. Consider following us on Twitter. You see the Twitter tags here. Consider subscribing. Consider, I don't know, just checking us out, checking our content out. Steven just uploaded a video.
Yeah, I probably did.
Check that out. On, what was it again? On how you model CSGO teams?
Yeah, how I model CSGO teams, basically using like Dota 2, what I know about Dota 2. Yeah. It's pretty esoteric, but it's interesting.
I have it bookmarked. I haven't been able to watch it yet.
All right.
I will watch it.
Okay.
I watch your stuff. All right. Thanks, guys, and we'll see each other again, hopefully next week.
Yep.